Hey there, I'm Steve,
And I'm Jen.
and we are,
Hold on. There's Stilton. There's our dog. Our dog Stilton. Our kids are inside. And we are.
the Road Less Traveled.
All right. So our rig is in the shop. It has been in the shop for a month and it's going to be in the shop for probably another month. So we're really spending time stepping back and reflecting on what the Road Less Traveled means to us and what it stands for. Now, we realize there are a ton of other RV shows that you could watch, and we encourage you to do so because there's some pretty good ones out there. But what we hope to do is be a little bit more than an RV channel, although we will focus on that. And today we wanted to talk about one of the things that is really important to us as people, and then also important to Road Less Traveled, and it is lifestyle design. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So I want to start with just kind of reiterating what I said in the last video about if the status quo isn't working for you, then you should look into changing that. So lifestyle design kind of pulls into that, and it's really about being aware and being present with where you are in life, and just actually, instead of just continuing to go through your daily routine and your daily program, take some time to stop and reflect and think about what it is that you really want out of your life, and think about how you're actually going to be able to accomplish that and be able to get there. So it's essentially just making a plan, and it doesn't have to be, sell your house and move into an RV. That happens to be what we did. That's what we felt what was right for us. But the key is that you're doing what you feel like is right for you, instead of doing just what you feel like is expected of you or has been expected of you from your parents or from other people in society or anything like that. So I'd say that's really the bulk of what lifestyle design means to me.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty much the same for me. I think a lot of times we just go about the motions and we get kind of complacent in our life, and we don't really spend the time going, what do I really want anyway? And I've found that even in building a business, the first priority is like, I just need to make money, right? So you think about it, that is my sole goal, just to make money. And you're taking on projects or things that don't really excite you or interest you just for the sake of making money. And when you're a few years in, you can step back and go, do I even like it? So you may be stepping back and going, okay, we're thinking about going on the road for some reason. And so it's just really asking you to step back and saying, what would RV life bring to your current life? Mm-hmm. How do you want to even design that, right?
I would like to say too, if you're thinking that moving into an RV is going to solve all your problems, that is completely false.
That can actually amplify some, right? Because you're with each other all the time.
Exactly. It can amplify some, and hopefully maybe get you to that point to where you're not just continually running through your routine, and when they get amplified, you realize that something else might need to change and be fixed and be improved upon.
Yeah, so 2, maybe 3 key questions for you to consider is, what do you want? What do you want your life to look like? What do you want? A question I've heard is, what is your ideal day? If you had to go scope out your perfect day, what's included in that? I think sometimes too it's hard for us to picture a perfect day because we're going, there's no such thing. But I encourage you, if you can't really think openly about what you want and the components of your work life, your family life, your travel life, whatever that looks like, think about what you don't want. That's usually a lot easier for us to consider. Is, here are all the things I don't want to do. Start there. Any other questions?
Sometimes it is hard to gain clarity on what it is you want. So my recommendation would be, if you feel like you want to be somewhere different than where you are, then just do something to change it. And it could be almost anything. You don't want to, there are some things you probably don't want to do, but
like what? You got me curious.
Don't go trying cocaine or
That was random.
I don't recommend that. But for the most part, like for us, we didn't know. I guess where I was trying to go with that was, first of all, don't do drugs.
Always good advice.
But for us, we didn't know that RV life was going to be something that we loved. It was a risk, but we knew it was different, and we knew that we wanted to be in a different place, so we did it.
Right. So I think there's two ways you can go about it. Steve's way of just change it, because he's more of like, I don't like it, let me change something. I'm more of the analytical type, so I'm going, what don't I like to be really introspective about things. So whatever way works for you. But I think it's just that if you are about to go out in full-time RVing, or you're thinking about it, I would just say this is a perfect opportunity to say, what does that ideal RV life look like for you? Start thinking about that.
People get stuck, I think, sometimes in trying to gain that clarity, and it's what you like to call analysis paralysis, where you're just like thinking about, well, maybe I would like this, but then you're just like, well, but what if this and what if that, and then you end up just like continuing to do the same thing you've always been doing because it's just like what you're used to.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
It's comfortable.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, your brain doesn't like to make we have a lot of decisions we make every day, and if you're doing something different, it puts a lot of cognitive load on us, and so it's hard to do new things for many reasons. So I guess, Steve, your advice is just do it.
Usually that is, yeah. That's the way that I kind of do things. I make a change, and then I review, and then I move forward and just keep going.
Yeah.
It's the way I live my life on a lot of things.
Not so much for me. I like to think about it, or even scope it out and plan it, and just actually be very at the end of the time. Like, we're taking the step back. We're not RVing right now, and so I know that I want our RV life when we go back out on the road in a month or so to look different than our first 5 months, 6 months on the road. Fair enough?
Yeah, so in terms of just do it, sometimes it's just make the decision. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out up front. So it's like, if you're thinking, oh, okay, well, RV living sounds cool, you say, all right, let's do it. And then you say, okay, well, no, how do we do it? Not should we do it? If you've already decided that you should do it, and you think it'd be something that would be an interesting experience, then I say you go forth and make that decision, and then figure out how you're going to do it.
So we want to talk about how we have designed our life, and I'll also talk about how it's a work in progress. We're always trying to tweak it, make it better, and of course, as we get older and different experiences happen to us, that we're going to obviously tweak things. So we kind of talked about this yesterday or the day before, that a few things are really important to us. One is quality time with our kids. Sometimes we have a little bit too much quality time with our kids, but it's important to us to see them, because back when Steve and I were both working our corporate jobs, we would, send our son to daycare. We'd pick him up at right before the 6 o'clock hour, go get him to bed, and then we do the whole routine again. So we just didn't see our Benjamin much. And then when we had Haley, I was working for myself, and we had the ability to keep her out of daycare. So anything to add to that?
Just that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of been tough, I'd say, for me at least, to do something that's so drastically different than what I'm used to. I used to be all about achievement and my career, and that had held a lot of meaning for me, and switching to being somebody who is mostly in charge of entertaining and educating the kids during the day when Jen's working has been really challenging for me. Now, just recently, I feel like I'm getting better at it. I'm trying to connect more with the kids instead of just trying to, like, here's the curriculum, this is what we're learning. And I've been reading some books to kind of help me with parenting in general. Ben is particularly strong-willed, so it just wasn't working out trying to get him to sit down at a certain time and start in on the math and the reading and the writing. But he loves to learn. He loves to read, and he's actually learning how to read really well, even though we don't particularly focus on like trying to teach him how to read. He just
We read a lot, but
We
yeah,
read
it's
a
not
lot to
formal.
him, yes,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's less formal than you would get in your typical traditional schooling system. So it's definitely been different, and that was something that I had to kind of get used to. And I'd say kind of like when you talked about it will amplify some things going on in your lives. It made me look at the way that I was being as a parent and think about that, because when we went on the road and started with the RV living, I was trying to parent the same way that I was before. And before I was at work most of the day, the kids were in school or at daycare, and we'd only see them for brief periods of time. But now that they're around the whole day and being kids all day, when I'm trying to be what I feel like is doing adult stuff. So I would do things like we limit their screen time, and they'd be like, no, you can't get on the computer. And then I get on my computer and start working and stuff. So it's like, all right, I need to just, instead of treating this like, okay, I'm going to do my time schooling and then go do my own thing and take a break from the kids, which wasn't working out very well. I had to get more involved in it and just really learn to try to connect with them before I try to influence them and educate them. And that's what I've been working on recently.
So spending time with our kids is important. I think Steve really highlights the point that even if you design your life, it's not perfect. Our life is nowhere close to perfect. We still struggle with parenting, and but it's important for us to be engaged parents. I stop work at a certain time. I stop early and then play with the kids. Haley manages to escape his grasp most days a couple times, and I find myself trying to like go, okay, don't get irritated, and I look at her and I'm like, I try to engage with her for a minute, which can be really hard when you're in the middle of a project or something that requires a lot of focus. But since that's important to us, we just wanted to point that one out. The other one was interesting because sometimes when you're designing your life and you have a partner, then you may notice that there are differences, and we'll talk about tricky parts in a minute. And so for Steve and I, luckily this worked out. I love to travel. I have wanderlust. Like, I love traveling. Steve, when we were kind of going through this, he's like, I don't really care about traveling. I just like novelty.
I like doing different things, going different places, but I don't necessarily feel like I need to see every place. I just like to go to a place for a little while and then go somewhere different just to change it up. So it feels good to me.
Yeah, so luckily in my design of my life, it's traveling, it's seeing new places. RV fits that. For Steve, it's novelty. So hey, yay, it works, even though it's a little bit different. Work and creative outlets are important to both of us. Steve does this vlog, like all of this is really his creation, and he gets it out there. He's the one who's committed to it on a weekly basis, and that creative outlet is important to us. So it's not like we want, a lot of people say, I'll just go retire and go RV, and that's fine. I just don't know. I guess for us, we're learners, and so I can't imagine going RVing and doing nothing else. Like, you're still doing things, you're still hiking and you're still exploring, but I guess work is important to us. I said that in a lot of words.
Right. I'm also trying to do something that, so when I was in my career, one of the reasons why I was, I think, feeling bored with it, I used to be a software engineer, and my last job, I was working for a contract research company for pharmaceuticals. That's not really important, but the thing that is important is that I didn't feel like I had a lot of meaning in what I was doing. So therefore I was feeling bored. I was making good money. I'd get up and go to work and I would do my thing, and life was fine and my career was fine from that perspective, but I just wanted to do more, and I wanted to have more of an impact to drive me forward. And that's a little bit like what I'm trying to do, or what hopefully we're trying to accomplish with this vlog. Besides it being a creative outlet, it's also just a way that maybe we can be generous and give back and talk about our experiences, so hopefully they help you in your experiences and in your life.
All right, so we're going to cut to the last part, which is how tricky it can be to design your life. All right, now onto the third part of lifestyle design, or designing this life that you want. It's hard. There's a few tricky parts along the way, and they're tricky parts that we're still grappling with. One Steve alluded to was accomplishment, and depending on how you are raised or just kind of your natural personality, if you're very goal oriented or striving or need that achievement, it's very easy to get into that piece, and that can, you're achieving in one area of your life and the rest is kind of going untouched.
Mm-hmm. For me, I tried to, the way I've kind of been starting to overcome this a little bit is, well, there's two things. One, we talked about with this vlog, it gives me something to work towards. And two, it made me refocus in thinking about achievement and thinking about how well I actually do on something that's actually really important to me, which is raising and educating our children. So it doesn't come with the level of appreciation that some other things come with.
Sure.
And it doesn't come with the level of status that other things come with. But I need to get over that and focus on what's important and get back to my values, which is being a great father and a great husband. And as long as I keep staying present with those, then I'm able to get to the point where I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing, because I feel like I'm helping to move our family forward and being a leader in our family, and that feels good.
Yeah, and also achievement can show up in different ways. I think that's a great point. And I think too, with being an entrepreneur and having a business, you can work 1,000,000 hours. Like there's no limit on the time that you can spend on your business. But since we're designing our life in the way that I don't work all the time, that I'm having to really think about my time wisely. So when I am working, what am I doing? Is it smart work? Is it priority work? And is it work that matters? So that's, for a very much achievement oriented person, that's been tough, but it's been so good, because I don't want to work a full day. Like, that's the beauty of owning your own business, right? You don't have to if you design it the right way. Mm-hmm. So that's one. Two is you may need to compromise. Like you and I are fortunate that ours align, but we talked earlier about how like novelty is big for Steve, and I like to travel. I'm not as much of I like some novelty, but not as much as Steve does. So luckily that has worked out. But you talked about the scenario, like what if you have radically different lifestyle design ideas than your partner? And I didn't know if you wanted to.
I don't know the answer to that question.
You don't have the answer.
If one person wants to do something different and the other person wants to stay the same, that's a challenge. I don't really know exactly what to tell you. I will tell you that when I wanted to initially move to California, which people are probably going to comment that they
you
think
California haters.
They think that's a dumb idea.
Every video we talk about California, we get haters in California.
I've wanted to for a long time. Just move out of Raleigh and move somewhere different. I'd been on the East Coast my whole life. Wanted to check out the West Coast and see what that was all about. And I had California on my mind. But it kind of got to the point where I was thinking, well, I'm not just going to go to California by myself. I'm not going to go out west by myself. I don't want to go out west by myself. It's either going to be me with my family going out there, or we're not going to go at all. But I need to stop torturing myself with the idea that we might be going or might not be going. So I talked to Jen one day, and I was just like, I love you and I love the kids, and I'm here, and I want to be a great father and a great husband. So if we're not going to go west, then I'm going to stop talking about it. I'm going to stop thinking about it. I'm just going to put it out of my mind. And I think that the fact that I feel like maybe that I was talking about what I valued, and that it was them that I valued the most. It usually, I think it helped her to soften up to the idea and soften up to change. Because generally, when somebody is coming at you hard, like if I was always just like, we gotta go, I want to go. Well, why are you ruining my life? I want to go.
You said that to me, jeez. Glad you didn't say that.
I didn't say that. I didn't say those words, but it's like when you're pushing so hard on something, the other side they tend to push back, or or if you're pulling to one side, they tend to pull further away. So if you can move in and discuss, connecting and feeling closer to that person in a way that you want to communicate about your relationship and where you're going and plan your life together, then I think that you'll have more success.
And a couple of things came up for me there. One was when I am resistant to something, I'm very reflective. I try to reflect and go, why am I so resistant? Like, what is it? And sometimes it is just that, like, get off my back. Like, right now, I'm a working mom. Like, that's all I got space for, right? But the planting the seed can be important over time. I'm more of a, like, yeah, give me some time, let me think about it. That's one thing. But I've seen also on forums and on the comments that there's one partner that wants a full-time RV, and then there's one partner that doesn't. And I think that's the exact situation that we're talking about, not pushing them into it, but also just trying to figure out, like, do you have to full-time RV? Is there a different solution? Does it have to? Choices aren't binary, right? It's not either we full-time RV or we stay here and do nothing. There could be a different solution. So you may need a compromise, but knowing what you want is important. Which leads me to the other tricky part. You may not know what you want, because that's hard. I mean, from the time of school, everyone told you what to do, and then you got a job, and you kind of fell into your path. And so, and a lot of us don't think about what we want because we're thinking about making enough money to survive. We're thinking about feeding our family. We're thinking about some of the basics. And so we don't have a lot of time and bandwidth. So as I've said in an earlier segment, is ask yourself what you don't want. And that can sometimes be easier. Anything to add?
I think that, kind of like what you said, a lot of people they're not used to really planning their own lives, because from the time they were infants, their lives have been planned for them for so long, and then they just kept following the path, and maybe they had some type of say in, like, what career path they were going to choose, and they started in that, and then they just kept going, like, oh, I got to make money, that's what I do. I'm not even thinking about the impact I want to make, or not even thinking about what it is that I desire to do. Or I live in this place. This is the city I live in, and that's all there is. Like, that's all I know. That's all I'm going to think about.
Yeah, or you get a promotion, or when I used to work in corporate, there was a lot of internal people going, hey, you want to work for me? You want to work for me? Within. So oftentimes you'll get pulled because you're asked, right? It feels flattering. It's an ego thing. You're like, I don't even want this job, but it's a promotion, or someone wants me, right? So you can easily get pulled into things that just really aren't important to you, or aren't things that you really want in the first place. And so, last thing is that it is very easy. This is more my personality than Steve's, but thinking in constraints. So when you're designing your life, you don't think about all the ways that it can't happen, right? So let's just say you wanted to have a day where you could easily have a leisurely breakfast, go out and explore, and then do a few hours of work. Oftentimes our mind will just shut that down and say, nope, that can never happen. And so I just encourage you, if you're thinking about designing your life, your RV trip, whatever that looks like, think about it without constraints first, because that will let your imagination kind of go, and you can create something wonderful.
I think that ties back to what I said earlier about make the decision without figuring out how. Like, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to move toward. Not, oh, let me figure out exactly how I'm going to do everything before I even decide that that's the path that I want to take. Let me have it all figured out. Let me have all that certainty, because it's just never going to work. You're never going to have all that certainty in your mind. You're not going to know what it is really that you need to do to get there until you start to take some action and start to do it. So I would not get stuck in just thinking about trying to figure it all out ahead of time, because if we had done that, there's a lot involved with moving from the sticks and bricks life to the RV life, and we just had to take it one step at a time.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think so let's just take your next RV trip. If you're an RVer and you take a trip, and just watch what you like and what you don't like. I mean, some days we have great days and we're like, it helps to look back and go, why was that so magical? Sometimes it's just, hey, everyone has slept well. We all got good sleep. Something good to note. And some days you have real crappy days, and it's just important to note that. And even if you're not in RV life and you're in your regular sticks and bricks and your regular job, then note the things that are like really good days and what energizes you, because I think it's important to know that. So hopefully we haven't lost you by now. We've talked about the importance of designing your life, how we're doing it, and definitely some tricky parts to doing that. So
yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much. I'm not really known as a big talker, but this subject is something that I feel pretty passionate about, so I have a lot to say about it. But yeah, so do you have anything else?
No, just thanks for listening. I know this, I guess it's kind of a little scary putting something like this out here, because we know that you're probably, want to talk about RV life, and we will. That's coming up, but we also want to expand it beyond RVing, and so hopefully you enjoyed this. We'd love to hear from you in the comments.
Do you want to do the outro? Do you want me to do the outro? All right, I'll do it.
Oh, okay.
If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you have anything to add, please, or any questions, please comment below. If you have not already done so and you would like to, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.
Thanks. I was gonna make a joke about you getting way up here. This is really
This is
personal.
the outro. Thank you.